Hello, you're watching Hornbill TV. After United People's Front and the Kuki National Organization decided to lift the 60-day blockade in Kangpokpi district along the National Highway 2, the houses of one of the signatories of the announcement, Dr. Seileen, the spokesperson of KNO, was burned down by miscreants in Songpi, Churachandpur on Monday night. The decision to lift the 2 months long blockade was announced after a 19-member team comprising of the Kuki Zoo civil society organizations and representatives of the UPF and KNO met a senior BJP functionary in Assam's Kaziranga on June 30th. And now to talk about this particular incident, we've got Dr. Seileen himself, who is joining us all the way from Aizawl through phone, and we will be conversing with him to get more clarity on the incident about the burning of his residence and also the present situation prevailing in Manipur and what the Kuki people in general are expecting in the future and also in a few days to come as to the general situation that is prevailing in violence-hit Manipur. First of all, welcome to Hornbill TV, Dr. Seileen, and thank you so much for joining us even at this crucial juncture. We are really sorry to hear about the incident that happened yesterday regarding your residence. So, sir, just a simple clarity, sir. What was the main reason behind why the miscreants decided to torch your residence, and also has there been any identification as to who the suspects were regarding their involvement in this particular incident, Doctor?
Okay, first of all, good afternoon and thank you for your commiseration. That is much appreciated really at this juncture. Things are very rough.
Yes.
Yes, to answer your question,
Yes.
see, it was carried out by miscreants in the middle of the night, I should say around 11:30 p.m. last night. And the fact that it was not a mob activity suggests that it was not a politically motivated arson.
Yes.
So here we have not identified who has done it. It was done quietly, and nobody was in the house. So the motive is slightly unclear, but the fact that it happened at this juncture when the national highway was lifted, much to the chagrin of the public at large, given the fact that we have been facing persistent offensives from the valley side.
Yes.
And in fact, the day we lifted or made the announcement for the national highway to be lifted, you might have been aware, at a place near Sagang, one of the boys, David Kiak, a young fellow, was killed. And we, of course, understand in conflict, when there's exchange of fire, call it war, there is a sense of situation where you accept it.
Yes.
But then we also believe there's honor in war.
Yes.
And in this case, the boy was obviously killed, but then thereafter his body was chopped off, his neck was, he was cut off, and it was put on a spike on the fence. And I mention this also because it is so unhuman or inhumane.
Yes.
And this I also quote because you can understand the sentiment of the people, being very, very intense.
Yes.
However, we proceeded with the lifting of the National Highway number 2, passing through Kangpokpi, because it had been a long time and we had been actually deliberating on this, lifting the blockade, because it was beginning to affect the people, all people in the valley, not only in the valley actually, in the hills too.
Yes.
And I'd just like to mention a sensitive and rather critical situation with respect to this decision being taken.
Yes.
Kangpokpi is a Kuki area that the trucks have to go through.
Yes.
But then after leaving Kangpokpi, within the district, we are not a clinically inhabited districts. We have mixed communities and we have Nagas also.
Yes.
So, these people who are completely innocent are also being affected by the blockade.
Yes.
So I mentioned this also because it's a factor in making a decision. We don't want our neighbors to suffer on account of issues with another community.
Yes.
So, however, this didn't go down too well with our civil society organizations because, as I mentioned, emotions were very tangled, very high.
Yes.
However, we wanted to extend the olive branch, which was to be a signal to put moral pressure on the valley people to stop their offenses, and so that there can be normalcy in the state, and people can begin to breathe again, and where peace would be restored, and any sort of differences could be sorted out in a civilized way through political dialogue, which the KNO and UPF are, of course, engaged in already with the government. It was also with the state government, but now, of course, the scenario has changed, and things will be quite different. But those are the backgrounds. And as to your question of who did it, it's not the mob, it's miscreants. So the motive, although the Times suggests that it is, perhaps related to the national highway blockade being lifted, but on the other hand, you wonder what. But having said all that, and the unfortunate incident of my, modest home being burned, putting that aside, we don't want any escalation of this in our community.
Yes.
Because we need internal security, internal stability, especially in light of the current, debacle with the valley people, which is also, of course, most unfortunate. As you might be aware, this is the first in the history of our, two communities engaging in such a
all right. So, Doctor, the clarification was pretty clear. But, Doctor, another thing about this particular incident, Dr. Seileen, how were you intimated about this information, particularly about your residence getting burnt? Was the information shared by any government enforcement agency, or did you get the news?
No.
Okay.
No, see, I am located in a rather isolated place,
Yes.
about 5 kilometers from the town, and my immediate neighbor is the what do you call it? Vigyan, something KVK.
Okay.
I forget what it means. They are my neighbors, and they called.
All right.
They informed me around 11:30, I think it was 11:45 or so. They had noticed that fire was, there, and I think they first burnt my car, and then they also burnt the house, maybe simultaneously. I don't know. So they saw the fumes and fire, and they called me. I was alerted by my neighbors.
All right, Doctor, really sorry to hear those unfortunate news. But all right, now talking a little bit on the general situation in Manipur. Just a few days back, it was perceived that the Chief Minister N. Biren Singh was supposed to hand over his resignation to the governor, and on which, just before handing over his resignation, his constituency supporters had come and requested him not to resign, and they also tore his resignation letter. So, as a leader, what is your perception towards this whole resignation fiasco that just took place in Manipur? Does it seem trustworthy?
I think I would rather not comment on that.
All right. All right. Also, okay. Then now moving on to another question, Doctor. I mean, like if you look at how the situation has just been, getting pumped. I mean, we've also had several leaders that have come from the union ministry and from the state ministry itself. But what is your perception on the silence of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, as we are hearing a lot of leaders, we are hearing a lot of personality figures, we are hearing a lot of ex-army persons too commenting that the Prime Minister should step in. So what is your view on the silence of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, especially when it comes to the situation in Manipur?
Yes, I think, on that count, I would say the fact that the Home Minister is dealing with the situation directly, it is his portfolio, and he has been engaged also along with senior functionaries from the government in Delhi and on ground. To me, I mean, the fact that they're addressing the issue is primary. whether the Prime Minister speaks or not, and I'm not saying the Prime Minister is ceremonial only in that, context. I don't feel particularly grieved by that at all.
All right.
It's a non-issue as far as we are concerned, because the matter is being dealt by the appropriate, minister concerned, the Union Home Minister, Shri Amit Shah.
Yes. All right. Doctor, if you can still hear me, I want to get your view on a certain topic, which is the separate administration that is being demanded by the Kuki people, especially the people in the hills. So,
yes.
So, Doctor, there is this, there's a portion that wants separate administration, but then there are sectors in which they do not want separate administration. So, how is the Kuki National Organization going forward when it comes to this particular topic called separate administration?
I'm sorry, I just missed the last sentence. You said KNO is asking for separate administration, and then you seem to indicate somebody else,
yes.
Some other. The connection was not so good. Could you?
Yeah, Doctor, let me just repeat myself. We've got one section that is openly demanding for a separate administration of the hilly areas, whereas there is another section that do not want any more bifurcation in the state of Manipur, and they do not want a separate administration. Now, as an apex organization of the Kuki people, the Kuki National Organization, how are you planning to move forward with this demand on separate administration, Doctor?
First of all, I would request clarification on the two entities you're talking about. One is KNO and...
Yes. Okay, giving you more clarification, it's the Bharatiya Janata Party, even the Congress party in Manipur, they have also said that they do not want separate administration, even though they are calling for the resignation of CM Biren to resign.
Yeah. I think there we have to... Yes, you've made a distinction, and thank you.
Yes.
See, we have to see that in perspective.
Yes.
The Kuki National Organization represents is one of the umbrella organizations that represent our community, who we refer to now as correctly Kuki Zo people.
Yes.
We are the same ethnic entity, and because we are multiple tribes, so we call it, we name ourselves the Kuki Zo community. Now, that's one part, and that's what KNO and the United People's Front represent.
Yes.
Now, when you talk about the BJP party or the Congress, that's at the state level.
Yes.
So there are Kukis in the BJP part and also the Congress.
Yes.
Now, the entity that we refer to in party lines, along party lines, represent the Valley people.
Yes.
So the Valley they're not based in the state, but the political parties essentially represent the Valley people, and they are, of course, against any bifurcation of the state.
Yes.
Not that the state has ever been bifurcated in the past, but if you look at pre-COVID days, there was not what we see as Manipur today, although the Valley people will oppose that, but it is a fact of history that the Meitei king reigned in Kanglei Park, the Valley, and the Kuki chiefs and Naga chiefs, they were in their respective domains in the hills, and they existed like city-states. It's only after the British came that they lumped us together under one administration. Our areas were appended to the present-day Manipur, which was affirmed after the 1949 merger agreement with the Union of India. And even at that, I may go to the extent of saying, the merger agreement was signed with the Meitei king, who the British had conquered in 1891. But the hill people, in this case the Kuki people, came under British control only after the 1917 to 1919 war with the British took place. And as you know, following Government of India Act 1935, the area was divided between British India and British Burma. So what is seen as Manipur today, the political map of today, is a construct of the British. And having said that, before the British came, there was no issue about territorial limits or boundaries. The Meiteis and Kukis and the Nagas, they all coexisted.
Yes.
Okay, there might be incidents of, skirmishes here and there, as in any other place, in any community, among any communities in the world. But by and large, there was cordial relations and mutual respect for one another.
Yes.
All that changed only after the British came.
Yes.
And particularly after India gained independence and the administrative system that was set up by the British was reinforced in independent India for administrative convenience. And then, too, we continued to coexist.
Yes.
And we had political differences, we had social differences in terms of we being tribal and they being the upper caste, and all that happened, which we take as something normal,
Yeah.
and never expecting this to spill over into what has what started on the 3rd of May. Now, it is clear from the 3rd of May that our Meitei neighbors do not want us to live in the Valley Kanglei Park.
Yes.
They have literally swept us out of there. They have chased us out of there. They have categorically demanded that we never go back. So they have made it very clear to us that they do not want us to live with them.
Yes.
So what is our option? Our option is only to have a separate administration. We'll remain neighbors,
Yes.
and hopefully we'll become good neighbors over a period of time. But, the ground realities have been clearly marked out by them. And so the BJP party in Manipur and the Congress or any other saying that there should be no bifurcation. On the one hand, you kill, and on the other hand, you say you can't have separate administration. What does that imply? That we should be subjugated to the majoritarian rule and we can only live and exist provided they are content.
Yes.
Now, is that democracy? Is that freedom? Is that permissible in the 21st century for any community anywhere in the world?
No.
And especially we being all citizens of India,
Yes.
and that we have our democratic rights, we have our constitutional rights. So we're only asking for our constitutional rights. We're not saying that we will be enemies with Meitei. No, we will, whether we like it or not, whether they like it or not, we will be neighbors forever and ever.
Yes.
That will never change. So why not, in a civilized manner, respect each other's rights as in the days before the British,
Yes.
and have, mutually independent administrative setups so that we can also look after ourselves, not on the basis of what has been before since India's independence, which was categorically, again, not favorable to us.
Yes.
In a 60-seat assembly,
Yeah.
the Meitei population in Manipur is about 46 or 47%.
Yes.
They come to, if you look at the valley, they come to 53 or so when you include the Bangal Meitei Muslims and other people from different parts of India settled there over hundreds of years.
Yes.
So, but then they have 40 seats in the valley for them,
Yes.
and 20 for the Nagas and Kukis.
Yes.
So it has been lopsided, and developmentally it's there in broad daylight, the stark difference. So we're only asking for what is our political right so that those imbalances, that we also get our due. And to reinforce that point, empirically, if you like, pre-3rd of May,
Yes.
our political demand was a territorial council within the state of Manipur. We had been denied 6th schedule, which was given to other states in the northeast. Nagaland, of course, has a very special status.
Yes.
We were not given any. We were given Article 371C,
Yes.
which was absolutely, ineffective.
Yes.
So now, pre-3rd May, whatever we asked for was above board and perfectly legitimate, perfectly reasonable and fair within the state of Manipur.
Yes.
Now they deny us that. They have kicked us out, they have burnt us, they have killed us, they have violated our women. Now, they want the state to remain, they want the status quo re-established. Now, which community on earth is going to be agreeable to that? Would you? Would they if they were on the opposite side? So we are not being, sort of negative.
Yes.
We are only asking for a constitutional right to be given to us as is given to other citizens of India.
All right, Doctor. I mean, there are so many things I wish I could have asked, but just on an ending note, I just want to point out this question. I mean, there are various political commentators and also researchers and people who are esteemed in this in the media fraternity. I mean, what their suggestion is that the state should have president's rule so as to not bring in any state factors into when it comes to bringing law and order situation back into normalcy. So what is your stand, what is your point of view? Should Manipur actually be put under president's rules so that normalcy could return a little sooner?
Yes, to answer you on that part,
yes.
The Armed Forces Special Powers Act was removed from the hills,
yes.
ironically, because in the hills, the suspension of operations is prevailing.
Yes.
Now, it was removed from the valley, where we have seen a lot of, violence.
Mm-hmm.
So, first I would suggest that the Armed Forces Special Powers be sort of imposed in the valley, and if required, if the government of India feels that it should remain in the hills, fair enough. But why is this discrepancy? The violence has started in Imphal.
Yes.
It is continuing from Imphal all this time since the 3rd of May.
Yes.
All offensives are starting from the valley.
Yes.
They come to the hills. They burn villages along the periphery. Now the Chief Minister wants all bunkers that Kukis have established to be removed by the state forces.
Yes.
And that is the only bastion we have to defend ourselves from the onslaught from the valley, where they have commandos and IRBs leading the Arambai, Tengol, and Meitei Lipun,
Yes.
and en masse, with women in the forefront as human shields. Now, what is the center going to do about this? Either, of course, yes, the fact remains that the center has deployed central forces along the borders.
Yes.
Yes. Now, if that can contain everything in terms of security for the valley people as well as the Kukizo people, well and good. But why remove bunkers? I mean, the recent incident where one boy was killed,
Mm-hmm.
on that morning, on that afternoon rather, snipers from the valley started shooting at, our locations are always at the foothill on the upper side.
Yes.
And so this happens virtually every day along all the borders between the valley and the hills. So our boys, of course, the volunteers, get provoked. And after one of our villages was killed, they also went on the offensive to their camp. And unfortunately, yes, the situation, the whole thing is unfortunate. 3 of them died. Now, what happens? The CM, with the whole state forces paraphernalia involved, goes and pays his respects to those 3 who they say villagers. Yes, fine. But has he done that to the Kuki casualties? Are we also not a part of Manipur as of now? I mean, is he chief minister of the whole state or only for the Meitei people? So, coming to president's rule, see, that is the call of the center.
Yes.
And it's a political decision that has to be made by the government in New Delhi. I don't know if I can make any comments on that.
All right, Doctor. Thank you so much, Doctor, for giving us your time. We are really sorry for the unfortunate news regarding the arson that happened in your residence. And also, we hope that peace soon prevails and that normalcy returns to the valley and to the hills too, and that coexistence becomes the key principle again in Manipur. And we hope that whatever journey you are taking now, sir, Doctor, we hope you stay safe and we hope that you see peace soon, very fast. Thank you so much, Doctor.
Thank you so much.
So that was Dr. Seileen, who is also the spokesperson of the Kuki National Organization. Well, he just clarified as to the incident that happened to his house, in which miscreants, and he has termed it himself, it was not a mob, but it was a group of miscreants that came and burned down his car and his residence. Well, Dr. Seileen also has said that the various communities living in Manipur used to coexist, and he hopes that in this 21st century, the same communities can come together and in a more civilized manner sit across the table, chalk out their differences and come to an understanding. So he hopes that some sense of normalcy returns to Manipur soon. Well, that was all for this hour's bulletin. For more news and updates, stay tuned to HornbillTV. Goodbye.